Welcome to the debate.
Glad to be here.
Today we are digging into something pretty unique, the Church of Script Kiddies. It's this self-proclaimed sacred order supposedly built on the gospel of copy-paste salvation. And it's all about maintaining this state of, well, what they call noobish bliss.
Mm-hmm. And the material gives us this really detailed, almost painstakingly systematic organization that's built entirely around, well, incompetence, but like ironic incompetence?
Exactly. And that detail forces the question, doesn't it? Is this whole elaborate thing, the high priests, the weird commandments, these really physical rituals, is it primarily just external satire? Is it just for the lulz designed to critique and mock the mainstream tech world?
Right. And my position here is, well, pretty straightforward. I think the Church of Script Kiddies is fundamentally just a vehicle for mocking the, quote, sweat-drenched toil of real coders. The whole setup feels like satirical performance art, and it seems calibrated almost exclusively for, an external audience. It's critique. And while I absolutely see the satire, it's impossible to miss, I lean the other way. I think the internal function is actually the main driver here. The sheer depth of the rules, this commitment to codified failure, the really systematic approach to anti-intellectualism, that provides a needed identity, right? A sense of belonging and maybe even a workable, if totally ironic, spiritual framework, what they call salvation through stagnation.
See, I just don't buy that the internal function is primary, especially when you look at how they present themselves outwardly. Their own stuff emphasizes now with 200% more absurdity and apparently mandates bad acting in the rituals. That isn't just self-awareness. That's pushing it into scam-level satire. It feels like it's designed to make actual cybersecurity pros weep with laughter. Or maybe it's despair, as the text says. The spectacle seems to be the entire point. And think about the initiation rites they describe. They seem built for maximum visibility, maximum disruption, like the Great Banana Peel Buffer Overflow, which is this grotesque parody of memory exploits. It apparently requires members to literally slip around in public shouting, "Buffer me, Beatty!"
Right.
Or the exploding energy drink exorcism, which sounds specifically engineered to get you thrown out of a library instantly. These just don't feel like acts meant for internal reflection. They're loud, they're performative critiques. It seems aimed squarely at mocking the, quote, impure world of quiet study, the legitimate white hat culture. It positions the members as basically ironic jesters whose main value is just generating external shock and, well, humor.
I think that analysis, though, it kind of misses the utility of the structure itself. If the goal was just quick laughs, why make it so consistent? Why so rigid? You'd expect something more ephemeral, maybe looser. But instead, you see this remarkable consistency. And that, I think, transforms the joke into something more like a functional social structure. Why bother codifying a whole religion of anti-intellectualism unless that system is meant to actually sustain itself and sustain its followers?
Okay.
Look at the 10 Commandments of Script Kiddydom. They aren't just like funny suggestions tossed out there. They give really absolute rigid guidance, things like, "Thou shalt not code from scratch," or "Honor thy Metasploit framework." This kind of systematic, defining approach, it sets the community's boundaries very clearly. It states who belongs, and maybe more importantly, who the outsider is, the try-hard heretic they have to reject. And the rituals, yeah, they're absurd, but they seem to function as actual, purification rites. The rite of the fresh install, wiping away the, quote, corruption of updates. That sounds like a necessary act of initiation, something that restores the soul to factory default ignorance. This whole structure delivers something I think is genuinely appealing to some people: salvation through stagnation. It's kind of the perfect antidote if you feel alienated by the constant pressure of meritocracy and innovation in tech. That eternal noobhood guarantee feels like a real promise of acceptance within their defined, safe little bubble.
Okay. Let's maybe focus on that core idea of codified failure, because I think this is where the external focus really shines through. You're suggesting this guaranteed failure is the core doctrine for internal cohesion. You mentioned rituals like the reverse Russian roulette reboot.
Exactly. where someone deliberately tries to brick their system with a bootleg virus on a USB, aiming for a purity roulette win. Yes, and these acts, these calculated risks, and this codified shared embarrassment, the bricked systems, the hours of trying to fix it afterwards, these seem indispensable for actually binding the community together. They become structured processes for achieving a kind of religious status within the group. Or think about enduring public ridicule on forums during the trial by troll. Doing that apparently earns you the title of the chosen noob, like a kind of digital martyrdom. This shared ritualized failure, it creates a common language, an achievable spiritual goal that only members really understand or can validate. It essentially reframes humiliation as sanctity.
I just profoundly disagree that the failure is primarily for internal sanctification. The source material itself explicitly packages this failure for external consumption. The whole system is apparently backed by something called infinite lulz insurance, which guarantees, quote, viral memes about your epic flop.
Mm-hmm.
And their ultimate promise, the ascension acceleration assurance, is literally your failures will be so epic they'll inspire memes that outlive you. That doesn't sound like achieving piety to me. That sounds like maximizing external entertainment value. The participant is actively, almost deliberately commodifying their own incompetence. They're turning themselves into a comedic object purely for the benefit of the observer, the audience of actual tech people who are in on the joke. So the whole exercise seems primarily satirical, aiming for that lulz apocalypse the text mentions.
That's a fair point about commodifying the failure. I see that, but if the entire operation is just a vehicle for satire, why bother with such an elaborate administrative structure? The spiritual hierarchy. If the failure is only a punchline, who actually validates the delivery of that punchline internally? Which maybe brings us to the leaders and their holy canon.
Well, I'd argue the leadership structure itself is part of the parody. The key figures mentioned, Spiderbite and Alberto, are described as, quote, never having touched a line of code without gloves. They're explicitly presented as figures of ironic incompetence. They guarantee these obviously hollow promises with a massive wink and a nod. They feel designed specifically to mock the very concept of hierarchical expertise and maybe the sometimes self-important authority figures you find in legitimate cybersecurity circles. They are part of the punchline, delivered through the org structure.
Okay, but even a joke structure needs necessary symbolic figures, right? And while yes, they're clearly mock figures, the consistency of this holy canon they've built up creates a surprisingly profound shared symbolic reality for the members. There's that hymn of the holy hack, Amazing Paste, which treats Spiderbite and Alberto as, quote, pure, our leaders shining bright. It even lists saints like Anonymous and Lulsec. This systematic canonization, even if it's dripping with sarcasm, establishes a clear lineage, a shared belief system, and tangible authority figures, however mock they might be. And when you read about the high priestess, Sister Exploitica, anointing devotees with WD-40, which, is for loosening rusted parts, while a choir sings parodies, that is high ceremony. It's bizarre, sure, but it's a shared liturgy, a tangible reference point for their beliefs and practices. Even putting specific social media handles in the text points to real, if mock, authority figures that followers have to reference. That reinforces the functional structure of the group's identity, I think.
So the power then maybe lies in defining the boundaries, which brings us to the ultimate boundary marker, the excommunication of expertise. That primary commandment, thou shalt not code from scratch. That seems like the purest expression of just comedic rejection of effort.
It is a powerful comedic device, no doubt, but I'd argue that banishing self-written scripts isn't just a joke about laziness. It feels like a vital, functional necessity for maintaining the community's identity, maybe its very existence.
How so? I mean, it reads like the ultimate comedic rejection of the mainstream tech culture, which obviously demands actual skill and hard work. The copy-paste communion, where they apparently just paste code verbatim into the terminal. It's like a celebration of sloth as a religious virtue. The punchline is just how successfully they reject the entire work ethic.
I see it more as an internal immune response. That commandment feels like the iron core of their identity, and it has to be protected by a serious functional defense mechanism against, well,
internal corruption by competence. The explicit threat being excommunicated as a try-hard if you actually learn programming. That's the church protecting itself, setting its boundaries. If too many members actually gained competence, the whole framework of salvation through stagnation would just collapse.
Okay.
Think about the VPN vigil ritual they describe. Devotees reciting the litany against learning. I am but a kitty, pure and simple. Knowledge is the devil's debugger. That's not just funny wordplay. It sounds like a form of cognitive boundary maintenance. It's crucial for preserving the group's collective purity. It ensures the community stays noobish, effortless, and perpetually outside the mainstream. The ultimate sin, writing your own script, has to be ritually purged with the rite of the fresh install to prevent the whole shared identity, this necessary incompetence, from dissolving. They've basically created this highly structured world where they're guaranteed success, but only because success is defined as magnificent shared failure.
So, okay, you basically view the categorical framework as a kind of deliberate protective membrane. It insulates a genuinely felt identity, even if it's ironically constructed from the outside world, with all its expectations and demands for competence.
Exactly. The community, as conceived, simply cannot survive the entry of competence. So the whole organizational structure is built specifically to defend and even elevate incompetence. That makes the framework fundamentally internal and functional, in my view. The joke is the defense mechanism.
Well, this whole discussion really highlights the brilliant complexity that seems inherent in this Church of Script Kiddies idea. From my perspective, looking at all this, the entire apparatus still functions primarily as a masterpiece of external satire. Every ridiculous ritual, every commandment, every mock authority figure, it all seems precisely calibrated to maximize the comedic impact, the flop, and to mock the rigorous demands faced by, legitimate IT professionals. The spectacular viral humor that lulls apocalypse feels like the intended product, and the rigid structure is just the, ingenious delivery system for it.
And I'd maintain that while yes, the satire is loud, it's undeniable. The intricate, very detailed structure of the dogma creates something much more substantive than just a delivery system. I think it genuinely forges a profound, shared identity and a kind of protective community for people who feel alienated by the digital world's constant demand for perfection. The church provides a highly functional, albeit deeply ironic, system of belonging. It's defined by shared rituals and commandments that guarantee continuous, accepted failure. And maybe in a world obsessed with relentless innovation, that structure provides a genuine, shared, if bizarre, meaning for its members.
It's clear the material supports both readings, doesn't it? It seems to function on both levels at the same time, as this high-level performance art and as a really detailed, structured subculture.
Indeed, and that complexity, I suppose, leaves the listener to weigh things up. Is the pursuit of the lulz apocalypse the sole purpose here? Or does this meticulously detailed structure actually serve a deeper, ironic purpose of preserving a community and an identity? It's certainly fascinating. Thank you for the discussion.
Thank you.